And first up, we're going to have our disabled students rep. So we've got Satish, Danny the Barman, Paul first. So whenever you're ready, you've got 60 seconds.
Hi, I'm Danny the Barman. Recently, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. It made me start thinking about disabled students on campus, whether they were being represented fairly, whether they were getting involved in KUSU. And because I've held 3 different student union positions before back in college, a very long time ago, I'd like to be a part of this, well, next year's committee and try and make a difference and try and not only help but be a good representative for the disabled students, but also be part of a good team and try and make Kiel a better place and the union the best that it can actually be, because it is actually one of the biggest in the country. I believe in Kaizen, which is continuous improvement, so whenever we achieve the best, we can always keep making things better. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and do we have any questions?
Question from the floor. What is your view on, very badly phrased. What is your view about cohort voting for your position?
Corporal voting?
Cohort voting.
Cohort voting.
The fact that only people who self-define as disabled for your position would be able to vote for your position.
I personally, when I first found out that there was such a thing, as only disabled students can vote for a disabled representative, it makes sense, but I don't think it's fair, because I'm not only going to be representing disabled students, but I will be working as part of a team to represent all students. And I think everyone's entitled to their opinion, so we shouldn't seclude a certain population of students. I believe equality, so I don't agree with it, basically.
Thank you. Any more?
No more questions from the floor. No questions from student media.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And next up is our LGBT representative candidate, and that is Kate Beresford.
Hi guys. For me, this t-shirt is true, and I love being gay at Kiel. I think we have a lot to be proud of in the way we treat our LGBT students. But I know that it's not true for 100% of Kiel students. There is a student who was supposed to start at Kiel in this September. He withdrew from his false position when he found out he would have to temporarily share, because he was so afraid of coming out to that other student. I don't know if that student found off campus or alternative accommodation, but I want to be there for students having problems just like that. There are lots of things that can be difficult about coming out and being LGBT on campus, no matter what and no matter how accepting and how free the campus feels. The 2 parts of this role are support and representation, so I want to be visible for all students to fulfill that role.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Same question as before. What is your view of cohort voting for your position?
I really struggle with the whole concept of cohort voting. My opinions on this have changed several times. While I completely understand that the experiences of LGBT students are unique and that other students may or may not be able to empathise with the problems I have, it also was recently pointed out to me that the partners, for example, of bisexual or trans students currently cannot vote when they might say that they have a good understanding of the issues and what makes a good representative. I'm not really sure that I have a definite position on whether or not cohort voting is appropriate, but I think it's something that will continue to be contentious. What is really important is that the best candidate is always voted into the role, and that's something I think that the students at Kiel are able to do, because they can read manifestos and go online and do those type of things.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Another one from the floor. A few weeks ago, same-sex marriage got once... sorry, I can't read. A few weeks ago, same-sex marriage got one step closer to being allowed, so what's next?
What's next?
What's next?
Somebody recently said to me that we have won, and should we not be gracious in our victory? We haven't won. That student before that I was speaking about, he hadn't won. When I'm frightened to kiss my same-sex partner in Newcastle, I haven't won. There are many, many different ways in which students still face discrimination and still feel discriminated against, even when there is no intention of discrimination against them. For example, blood donation for men who have sex with men, that's a really good example. The equal marriage ban may have passed the second reading, it's not there yet. Nobody can so far go and have a marriage, an equal same-sex marriage, and within that bill, the quad lock still applies to churches who want to perform equal marriage. There's lots to be done.
Anything else?
And a question from student media. How would you work with the LGBT society?
This is really easy for me. I'm currently Secretary Treasurer of the LGBT Committee, and I'm somebody who's been very involved since my first week at Keele with that side of things. I would ask that committee to continue to be allowed into their meetings and to work closely with them. I would continue to go to their socials. I also think that just by being visible to the LGBT community at Keele, you will be visible to those members who go to the society. Things like being visible on Facebook, as this year's welfare officer has done so fantastically, putting yourself out there so that people can know, if they don't need me, that's brilliant, but if they do need me, where to find me.
Thank you. Mr. Stephan, is that another question I see before me?
Yes, it is another question.
Are we going for said question?
Yes, if I can read handwriting. Can people submit questions in block capitals in future, please? Thank you very much.
You are the best LGBT group in the UK according to the AOS. How will you continue to go from here?
There are lots of things to be done at Keele, and there are things that we've done since we were honoured with that award last June. Trans representation within the society and within the university is something that we've worked really hard on with our Trans Month in November, which culminated in a trans ball, and we've heard from students that both raised awareness of their understanding of trans issues, and we've heard from trans students that was really helpful. So that's something that we're doing. Our new radio show on Cube, which is on Tuesdays from 11 till midnight, that you should definitely listen to, is another way that we're expanding what we do. We've had a lot of challenges this year. Some changes within the NHS mean that we're finding it much more difficult to get hold of both literature and condoms and lube for safe sex. We need to find other ways of finding those resources. There are things that we can keep doing to be better, and there are ways in which it's still difficult to keep doing the things that we're already doing, if that makes sense.
And one more question from online. Sorry. How would you educate international students about LGBT as most are alien to the concept?
I think it's kind of being said in the question, education, things that you have never come into contact with or that you've been told your entire life are new and different and scary are different and scary. If they have never met someone who is LGBT or T, it's understandable that these students are a bit, ooh, what is this? But me and many of the LGBT people I know don't live a different life. Pretty much everything we do is the same as everybody else. So if we can demonstrate that to students, demonstrate that actually there's nothing to be scared about, it's a little bit different, but not really that different, then I think it's just a matter of understanding and that they are comfortable and able to ask the questions that they want to ask openly, even though some of those questions may be embarrassing or personal.
No more questions from the floor.
Good. You're done. Yeah, if any candidates want more, we've got some here. Okay, and next up, our women's rep candidate, that's Vicky Haywood.
short. Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Vicky Haywood. I'm a second year politics and sociology student here at Keele, and I'd love to be your next QC Women's Rep. As the current president of the Women's Society here at Keele, I feel I have the right experience and knowledge when it comes to the needs of female students at Keele. I don't need to tell you how many brilliantly talented female students we have here, and I would relish the opportunity to represent their views. There are two key areas of my campaign: the safety needs of female students on campus and the greater engagement of women in the university experience. So please feel free to read my manifesto. I'll try my best to accommodate your needs, and I welcome all questions. And if you self-identify as a woman, please consider putting me as your number one preference for Women's Rep. That would be really lovely. Thanks.
Student media, do you have any questions?
Same question as before. What is your view on cohort voting for your position?
It's a really good question. It's quite tricky as well. I don't think it does a lot in the sense that it kind of creates divisions, I guess. And my role would be a role that promotes equality. And I guess it doesn't. It's more of a hindrance than a help, I think. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. A bit like my fellow equality candidates. So I don't really have a stance on it, if I'm honest. But it is a really, really tricky question. But yeah.
Thank you. Any more?
Yes. Is the portrayal of women a problem within the music industry? If so, do you think that... Hang on, I'm lost with this one. I can't remember again.
Is the portrayal of women a problem within the music industry? If so, do you think that showing music videos or having artists who are this problem need help? How would you do this?
Good question. I think it's got a lot better. I still kind of do think women do tend to be objectified in the music industry, whether that be they feel pressured to sort of look a certain way, dress a certain way maybe. And I do think it can create a problem if we put them on the screens in the SU or if they're out there. I mean, it sort of gives the impression that women should look a certain way and should have to behave a certain way. And it's, I don't think it's a good thing. So, what would I do about it? I mean, we need to encourage more women to be empowered and to feel like they can be self-expressive. And it's not just about the way you look, it's about your talents, and it's about your lyrics, and it's about the music you make. So, yeah.
A question from student media. You suggest a swap your heels for shoes scheme. Would this cost the union anything? And if so, surely this is unnecessary when we have a cloakroom.
Yeah, so the swap heels for shoes scheme was aimed at, women after a night out of the SU. You have blistered feet, it can be a real problem, walking home, safety problems as well. I don't think it would cost the SU anything. I mean, I've got quite strong links with Staffordshire Women's Aid. I built that up, I built that as my time here as the president of the Women's Society. And we're working with them, and they get donations and things like that. So, I mean, what we would ask from female students would be maybe a £1 donation to Staffordshire Women's Aid, because we've got that support with them. So I don't think it would cost the union anything. No.
And one final question from Dave, who's going to yell it because I can't read handwriting.
In your manifesto, you discuss prioritising single or groups of women first on the labor cost. Does this mean groups of women will have priority over single men who are also livable?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, I guess. It would mean that, yeah, if I'm honest, it would mean that, because, I mean, I understand they are vulnerable, but at the end of the day, I would be the women's representative, and my, my inhibitions and my priorities lie with the safety of the female students on campus, and, statistics show that women are more at risk during night time, and, yeah, it would mean that, yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any more?
No more from the
No more
floor.
questions?